Uncensored raw footage from the attack on Pearl Harbor. The sky tore open. Explosions ripped through the calm of Pearl Harbor. Ships burned, planes screamed, and sailors scrambled. The world changed in an instant. Nobody was ready. Chaos, fire, and death struck without warning, shattering peace forever. It was December 7th, 1941, Sunday morning in Pearl Harbor, Hawaii. Battleships were in Battleship Row, shining in the sun. Sailors continued with their daily tasks without any ideas of a disaster that was about to happen. The Oklahoma, the Tennessee, the West Virginia, the strong Arizona, the Nevada sat like sitting ducks, anchored and defenseless. At the air bases, aircraft were closely clustering without any idea that the Japanese forces on the carrier Akagi at the time were preparing to carry out a devastating blow 230 miles north. Early in the morning, 180 Japanese planes flew out. The initial attack was directed to Pearl Harbor. Sailors started their morning activities at 6:30 a.m. They went into the deadliest ambush in world history without knowing it. After 15 minutes, USS Ward had detected a Japanese submarine and fired a warning shot, but communications failed. The message was ignored. Ships and airplanes were still not ready. As early as 7 a.m., the first wave was 130 miles distant. Japanese commanders even used Hawaiian radio music as a navigation tool. The attackers were eventually detected by American military on radar, but a lieutenant ignored the blips as friendlies. By 7:40 a.m., the first wave hit Oahu. The quiet morning shattered. The aircraft came flying like locusts in the sky, north and southeast. The Pearl Harbor attack opened America into World War II. Americans had remained impartial over the years, hoping that they would not come to experience the war. President Roosevelt had been providing the Allies, but without going to war. The Axis powers had now decided on his behalf. A country that used to sleep calmly had risen and broken out in anarchy. The first wave began. Sailors scrambled. Guns clanked impatiently. Hickam Field, Wheeler Field, and all over Pearl Harbor were bombed. Airplanes were destroyed even before flying. On the battleships, the Arizona exploded as a bomb struck its gunpowder stores, immediately killing 1,177 men. The Oklahoma capsized, leaving more than 1,000 sailors trapped on board. Desperate men packed clothes and blankets into holes in the vents to reduce the rushing of water, yet the water continued to find its way inside. The Japanese pilots were laughing because they were strafing the decks without thinking how horrible it is below. Battleships were torn apart by special torpedoes, which were made to penetrate in the shallow waters. 4 battleships were struck in a few minutes. 6 torpedoes, 2 bombs were received by the West Virginia. The chaos was total. The fire was going out of hand, the sun was obscured in smoke, and the crew was jumping out into flaming water. The second attack happened at 8:54 a.m. 170 planes crashed in 3 groups. This time, American defenses were on the alert. The skies were being torn by anti-aircraft fire. Explosions ripped ships apart, although it increased the resistance. Destroyers like USS Cassine and USS Downs were in fire. The USS Nevada attempted to escape, being struck but clearing the main passage to the sea. Japanese strike force pulled out by 10 a.m., leaving behind destruction. The post-event was unbelievable, and in 2 hours, 21 American warships had been sunk or damaged, and 188 planes were destroyed. More than 2,400 of the service members were killed. The number of civilian casualties was 68. Amazingly, the 3 mighty aircraft carriers of the Pacific Fleet weren't in the harbor that day. They escaped the bombs, untouched and ready, a hidden ace that would prove crucial in America's fight back. The Pearl Harbor attack was not an ordinary military attack, it was a psychological war attack. In the history of America, it had never been attacked on its own land. Terror and anger sparked a national determination. The following day, President Roosevelt spoke to Congress. Yesterday, December 7, 1941, a day which will live in infamy, the United States was abruptly and deliberately assaulted by naval and aerial forces of the Empire of Japan. Congress declared war. The U.S. was completely mobilized. The factories roared, men gathered, and the country got together. Roosevelt said, "We are going to win this war and the peace that follows. No outcome will satisfy the United States but victory, complete and final." Allies such as the Soviet Union and Britain, headed by Stalin and Churchill, organized a 2-front war. The U.S. was ready to fight in Europe and the Pacific. The Pacific War was brutal. The war was characterized by island-hopping campaigns, naval battles, and continuous air attacks. Some of the bloodiest battles included Iwo Jima, Peleliu, and Midway. June 1942, Midway, the U.S. attacked 3 Japanese aircraft carriers in the first 5 minutes, and by the end of the battle, it destroyed the 4th. Midway was the start of the offensive thrust by America into the Pacific. The Japanese retaliated with kamikaze attacks, in which pilots crashed their planes into the ships of the Allies. By 1944, such suicide attacks were common, and hundreds of ships were sunk or crippled, and thousands of crews assassinated. Most attacks were prevented, and every defeat was a burden to Japan. The Peleliu battle became a nightmare. The Marines were on the expectation of an easy victory, but they encountered Japanese troops who were positioned in the ridges and the caves. The heat was high at 115 degrees. Arms, bullets, and wounded men were moved under harsh conditions by soldiers. Artillery was shaking the earth, and the bullets and shells were falling like a rain. The Marines were falling in every direction, some hanging, others being tossed back, others screaming. They were all personal deaths, friends, brothers, comrades. 2.5 months later, Peleliu was called secure. Casualties were high. The war dragged on until the end of 1945. At the same time, the European War was terminated in May 1945. Hitler died in his bunker. Germany surrendered, but Japan was not yielding. They did not give up due to their culture. They fought to the last man. The last major Pacific battle was the Battle of Okinawa, April to June 1945. The Operation Iceberg claimed horrifying casualties: 12,000 U.S. soldiers, 100,000 Japanese soldiers, and thousands of civilians were killed. The battle was extended by kamikaze raids and strong points. Soldiers were totally exhausted. The possibility of an attack against Japan would have left devastating losses. The decision to drop the atomic bomb was made by President Truman. On August 6, 1945, Little Boy was dropped on Hiroshima by Enola Gay. It fell 6 miles in 43 seconds and burst at 2,000 feet, killing 80,000 instantly. Entire districts were obliterated. The survivors experienced blinding light and inconceivable destruction. Nagasaki was bombed 3 days after that. The destruction was reduced by geographical factors, although nearly 100,000 people were killed. Japan eventually realized that it could not last any longer. On August 15, Emperor Hirohito announced surrender. The Japanese government conceded to the Potsdam Declaration, which required unconditional surrender. The war had ended. The deadliest conflict seen in the world ended 4 years later after Pearl Harbor. Cities celebrated. People wept. Soldiers returned home. The suffering was inconceivable, but the war transformed nations and the world order. Through the blood-soaked beaches of Iwo Jima to the nuclear flame of Hiroshima, humanity had seen sacrifice and destruction. Pearl Harbor had broken peace. The Pacific War was a challenge to all Marines, sailors, and civilians. Midway turned the tide. Peleliu and Okinawa exhibited patience and bravery. Hiroshima and Nagasaki compelled Japan into surrendering. And lastly, the Allied powers won the war after years of brutality. The sacrifices were not forgotten in history. The heroes were remembered in history. The assault that started it all on December 7, 1941, became a symbol of American strength and will. From destruction to victory, the world had changed forever. If you felt the intensity of Pearl Harbor, hit like and share this story. Don't forget to subscribe and comment your thoughts. History lives through you.